So that's what we'll be doing in the presentation. So to start my discussion of complementary digital media, I'm just going to outline the remit more broadly. So we're talking about offending behaviour programs, which are embedded within the risk need responsivity model of offender rehabilitation. So these programs tend to be cognitive behavioural therapy based programs which look at skills and concepts which it's of benefit for people to learn and share with peers in order to develop insight into their needs and to develop strengths that they have already and to develop new skills to try and enable them to overcome certain challenges in their lives which may have resulted in behaviours associated with offending behaviour. Offending behaviour programs look at psychoeducation. They look at motivating people and trying to build on their strengths. More recently, there's been a focus on here and now skills. These programs are focused on the development of skills, and a lot of these skills have been around in cognitive behavioural approaches for many, many years. We decided that it would be useful to operationalize some of these facets of offending behaviour programs digitally, so we can try and complement the traditional provision of programs with digital media to try and enable blended learning, combining that face-to-face and the flip chart, chalk and talk type exercises with digital animation, both within the sessions, but also in the lead up to a face-to-face session and in the subsequent time between a session and the next one. To try and consolidate learning as best we can. Also, we've found that this kind of approach is really beneficial to supporting a self-directed learning to complement any face-to-face activity that they engage with as part of their sentence plan. So there's new types of service. There have been now a number of people, academics, who have published work, influential work around this notion of digitally enabled interventions for people in the criminal justice system. And these three papers here are really influential. First is the Hannah Kipp systematic review of e-health applications delivered within forensic, psychiatric and criminal justice settings. Sarah Ellison Davies, who is part of the Breaking Free Online initiative. She's done influential work. And one of our colleagues in Australia, Stuart Ross, has done an incredibly insightful piece in the journal of the European Journal of Probation around the process and procedural challenges associated with the integration of digital interventions within criminal justice settings. So there's three really influential papers there, which I would encourage you to read. I can send them out to you as well if you email me afterwards. So, systems-orientated technology is essentially where we want to be to try and ensure that we as practitioners are filling the policy space in a way which enables our skills and expertise to find new ways of reaching its audience. And once we've filled this practice and policy space, hopefully then we can partner with corporations, small businesses, universities, in order to develop new services. The authors that I've quoted there talk a lot about the personalization that technology can offer us. So both in terms of flexible platforms which are more readily accessible to service users. So the media that we create is a huge vehicle for the equalities agenda, whereby we can bring in a range of voices and stories which try as best we can to reflect the protected characteristics of people, so that we're not designing services which exclude people implicitly because there's a lack of representation of groups who you would expect to be represented within your target audience. An example of that might be within domestic abuse. We've done a project which has looked at co-creating content with and for people who have committed domestic abuse but against a male partner. And by co-creating it with people from the target group, we're hopefully able to be tuned in and responsive to some of the needs and the issues that may be experienced by people who attend that particular service. So we can co-create, we can co-produce, we can use service user voices, and we can deliver with peers. Me and Vic Knight have obviously published on this, and Hannah Graham's been a huge inspiration to me in terms of the way that she has embraced all things relating to the integration of user needs into innovation within criminal justice settings to try and, as Vic said earlier, to fend off that notion that perhaps technology may well bring with it hidden harms. As best we can, we want to try and be creating that content ready for the future evolution of our services, whatever that might look like. So a little bit about complementary digital media. So these clips that we've been creating are micro learning explainer clips. So we have a very discrete purpose for each of our clips. The Timewise channel at Berwyn is 24 animated clips which look at a range of different skills and strategies. The Skills for Relationship toolkit, which Laura talked about, there's 27 clips on there. So each one has a very discrete learning objective or set of learning objectives associated with it. We are taking advantage of digital learning principles. There's some, I did a paper in 2018 which expounded a little bit on these types of techniques. There's some references in there that you might want to look at. So some of these digital learning strategies are about it's common sense stuff, it really is, but there's kind of some cognitive psychology underpinnings to it to explain why it's a good idea to present auditory information or channel auditory information while you're also channeling text information and visual information at the same time, and also wrapping that up in stories and narratives, because our brains love stories. So people who've done psychology work in the past will know about working memory and how you can have these channels operating in parallel to actually reduce the amount of cognitive load on yourself, but ensure that you're receiving an optimum level of information across a range of channels. So there's information about the modality principle, which is this digital learning strategy, which is linked into how working memory works. We can also look at something called the signaling principle, which is where within digital media you can link together different elements of a presentation in very subtle ways by using color coding, using symbolism, and using markers to flag up key learning points. So what we've found is that the more kind of tuned in we are into what we're trying to do, the more ways you can think about subtly selling that message within the digital media that you've been creating. But our whole point behind using digital media is to try and bring people closer together. So it's got to be complementary in some respects. So wherever possible, we want to try and use the media that we co-create to get conversations started between people, between whether it's facilitators and participants, whether it's between supporters who are not facilitators, peer mentors. So that's the idea. We want to try and create a shared focus on something which is meaningful for the individual, which gets that conversation going. And we want to make that available between sessions, before sessions, as I say, because there's also evidence to suggest that optimal spacing of learning exposure can really help with retention of that information that you present. We've had feedback from service users on services that we've piloted around the fact that actually when you play a clip at the start of the next session that you use to base a conversation on in the last session, it all comes flooding back in terms of what the discussion, what the previous learning was from the session. And these clips are only sort of 2 or 3 minutes long, so you can very quickly prompt prior learning by repeated exposure. Okay, so co-producing content. This is one of the things I really want to sort of highlight, is that when you're doing service user involvement work, it's really helpful to attend to or adhere to a co-production framework. The framework that we've tended to use is the 4PI framework, which has been developed by the National Survivor User Network, which is a mental health charity. The 4 Ps are your co-production projects should have purpose, and there should be principles underpinning them. There's a process, so you're managing the process of getting people in the room, ensuring that people know what they're doing. Rob gave us some feedback on the process of our last co-production project, which we've taken on board. The next one is presence. You want to have people present from that target group for that service, which I'd mentioned previously. So you want to go for those protected characteristics, ensuring that they're reflected within your group of people that you're co-creating with. And the final part of the 4PI framework is the impact. So you need to be evaluating what you're doing, the outputs from your co-creation, and also how people within the co-creation process have found that process. Has it been beneficial? Have there been things that they're not sure about? So when Rob did his blog on our last one, it was a really insightful window into his viewpoint, and it was incredibly powerful for us to see that content. So the kind of processes and outputs that we get involved in, the kind of activities with our co-creation projects, are the co-creation of scripts that are relatable to people who are likely to be the audience. So we turn those into storyboards. And we also look at voiceovers. So we discuss how we can turn, essentially bring a concept to life through a scenario. We develop a script, we work out how that would look in an animation, and then we ask service users, ex-service users, experts by experience to provide voiceovers wherever we can. In the last project we did, Paul was brave enough to go on camera as well, so we managed to integrate video with the animation as well, which is something you can do in Powtoon. So the CDM clips present explainers of the OBP concepts within the program, and they'll model the skills by presenting a challenge. So it might be somebody's received a notice from their partner that they're going to, for reasons, discontinue contact with a child. And then they'll explain, so they'll present a challenge, they'll explain a particular skill that might assist with that challenge. And then we'll take the service user through the process of modeling how they've used the skill to address that specific challenge. And the idea being that we're trying to present things from the programs that are on, that people are attending, in ways which they can identify with situations where a skill might be genuinely useful, and you're showing what that actually looks like in practice to try and bring it to life. So also involving people with lived experience is incredibly important when we're looking at the broader design of services and how we can make them more engaging, and to ensure that people feel represented as part of the process, and we can essentially optimize what we do to try and meet the needs of the people that are on our services. Okay, so that leads us into sound recording. So I'm hoping that people will have had the opportunity to download the software, Audacity software, from the link. And what we will do is I will, in a second, I will switch my screen sharing to Audacity and give you an example, or a little walkthrough of that bit of software. So the next steps for this presentation are going to be to record a piece of audio that we'll use for our animation, and then we're going to export that as an MP3 file, and that's the file type that Powtoon recognizes. So it's an important step once we've done our recording in Audacity. Hopefully you can see my Audacity there now. So it's quite a straightforward bit of software, which is why I use it, and it's also free. So you may well have a USB plug-in microphone, and I picked one up on eBay for about £35. The sound quality that you get on a built-in microphone is not as good. So I'm hoping that when I click here, you'll see my other mic, which unfortunately we don't. So that's the first schoolboy error. So what if you've got a plug-in mic and it doesn't appear here, what I think you need to do is to restart your computer with your mic plugged in, which I should have done before we did this, and then you will see your mic appear here. But if you're doing a polished animation, you're going to want to have the best sound recording you can get. I use a separate recording device usually, which is a specialist bit of sound recording equipment, and then I import my audio into Audacity to edit it. So that's microphones, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just simply do a quick bit of recording now, and I'm going to use this bit of recording in Powtoon later. So got a bit of audio. So we've been creating content to go on something called Way Out TV, and Way Out TV is a service that is available in 50 prisons around the country. So we've been creating animated content so people can tune into that and essentially engage with in-cell learning. So what I've got here is some audio from the intro to our clips. So I'll just play that now.
Stopping the spread of COVID-19 has affected how prisons work. Self-help packs can help you build skills to stay positive and prepare for your progression. We're looking at new ways to share self-help ideas that could help you cope with lockdown and make positive plans for the future.
So what I'm going to ask people to do is to press the record button and then record an extract, if you're comfortable doing that, of something that you would like to create an animation from. So I'm going to have to use this little bit of extract here for my animation to show you today, and I'm going to give everybody a couple of minutes just to do that, just to have a play around. One tip with Audacity is that sometimes you'll see that the buttons will be emboldened and it seems to jam up a little bit, but if you click the stop button, it kind of resets it. So if ever you get jammed up, just press the stop button, and then that should enable you to get back up and running again. So one thing that we find is that sometimes your voiceovers might be a little bit quiet, or if you're editing audio by bringing in audio from another audio file, you might have different sound levels. Now, I'm not a sound engineer, and a lot of my recordings are definitely not industry standard, but what I do make sure is that I try and make the audio the same volume between different components, and that can be really useful. So one thing that is helpful is this gain sort of slider. So if it's not loud enough, move that gain slider up to something like 6 dB. So my brother, who is a sound engineer, informs me that 6 dB is around double the volume. So when it comes to exporting, if you've set the gain a bit higher, you will end up with an MP3, which is a little bit higher volume. That's an important step. So what we're going to do now is you are going to go to File, and then export. So hopefully people can see that on their screen. And once you've got your recording, we want you to click on export as MP3. So I've got a CDM workshop folder here. So this is going to be a bit louder than my usual recording. I'm going to save that MP3 in my folder, and then I'm going to subsequently access that from Powtoon. Okay, so that's sound recording, and it is a huge science that I'm not really skilled enough to be doing webinars to people from the criminal justice system on, but I've done it anyway. It's a DIY process. So now I am going to flick to Powtoon. So this next bit is for anyone that hasn't yet got a Powtoon account. Other web-based animation software packages are available. What we want you to do is to go to Google, put Powtoon into the search bar, then we're going to click on the Powtoon website and sign up for free. So I'll put my Gmail account in there, my details, almost done. So I will have received a confirmation email. So I'm now going to access my Gmail account where the email's gone. So get my confirmation email from my Gmail into my account, into the email, confirm, continue, and that's done. It's asking me to tell Powtoon who I am, so I'm going to say that I'm an individual. I don't want to sign up to their newsletter. Sorry guys, it's a no from me. And then we're going to get through to this point here. So this doesn't look like Powtoon when you usually log into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you navigate to select a blank Powtoon screen. And then we'll select horizontal Powtoon. And this will take us to the screen that you need to be on to get started. So let's rock. So this is our first creative screen after we've selected infographic. Okay, so there we are. This is the starting point that I'm going to help you navigate through in the rest of the workshop. This main slide has this timeline underneath, and what you're going to be doing is you're going to be placing things on this timeline. And whenever this little pointer here is on a particular part of the timeline, it's going to show you whatever you put on your screen here that you put for that time slot. So each slide can only be up to 20 seconds long. So there's these two buttons here. If you want to go over 20 seconds, you've got to create a new slide. Now, and you create a new slide just by simply clicking on that plus here. So you can delete slides by clicking on here. So that's an important thing to remember, is that whatever you do, you've only got a maximum of 20 seconds. And then if you want to go on to the next slide, you'll have to choose to extend your current slide. And what that will do is it will put anything that's on the right at the end of your first slide, or any slide, onto the very start of the next slide. And I'll show you how that works. So first of all, I tend to adopt the strategy of using an audio file to structure my animation around. So I'll try and get the story right first and get a script done, and I'll get a voiceover. And then adding the visuals is a secondary process for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the voiceover that I recorded earlier. So I'm clicking on this little sound symbol here, and then add voiceover, and then I'm going to upload. So this is going to go into my files, and then I will select my CDM workshop, and then I've got my self-help intro. So it's going to ask me, do I want to use this voiceover? I always select entire Powtoon, what I usually do for the way I work. And that's going to take a little while to upload onto the slide. So what I've done there is I've taken the MP3 that is on my computer and I've uploaded it to the internet. So it's securely held in my Powtoon account. So now when I play this, this slide, so as I press play here, it's going to move the time indicator across the timeline. I'm hoping my voice is going to appear.
Stopping the spread of COVID-19 has affected how prisons work. Self-help packs can help you build skills to stay positive and prepare for your progression.
Okay, so my audio came in at about this point here.
Prisons work.
So this is about COVID.
Spread of COVID-19.
So I'm going to select a background. So along here, you've got all the features that you need to construct the different characters, objects that will be part of your story for your animation. So my story is basically going to be about COVID. So I'm going to click on backgrounds and then I'm going to type in what I want to see. So it's really intuitive, this. It's really great. It's essentially what you want to find. You just input into the find box for all of the different categories, whether it's characters, whether it's props, shapes, images, or videos. So I've put COVID in. So if we look on the right hand side here, you can see that it's COVID-19 is offering me 100 plus backgrounds, no text, no characters, no props, no shapes, but 100 plus images and 100 plus videos. So I also have, I want to select a video background. So you get access to copyright, it's a common copyright video sharing data sets. So these are really useful. Apparently, we don't have to worry about people attacking us for abuse of copyright if we go through one of these official engines. You can upload your own videos and your own images as well, and I'll show you that. But this is just stock images. So I'm going to take this one here. So hopefully you're all thinking now about your video and what background you'd like to have for your animation. So if you want to just click here, you'll get back to the search bar. So if everyone wants to have a little go at selecting a background, that would be great. Also, think about where you've saved your MP3 file and have a go at uploading that sound file to your Powtoon as well. I should show people here that you've got a section called My Media. So in here, we can see all of the media that I've used, all the background videos that I've used in the past for some of our videos. And you've got the same in images. Images is something which you can really make use of. So you can see one of the things here is this is Paul, who Rob will recognize. So I've taken lots of screenshots of different videos so I can use the images from those videos in new Powtoons. So, and one of the really useful features is you can combine images with objects, and I'll show you how to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to select an object now. So I'm going to have an object which is a laptop. I don't know if that's even a word that people tend to use. So it's coming up with all of the images because that's for the last 1 hour's in, but here she comes, walking into the foreground.
Stopping the spread of COVID-19 has affected how prisons work.
So I kind of want her to stop at a particular point in time. So playing it in loop isn't brilliant. So it's really kind of like suck it and see, just so you can see what point you want her to stop walking. So it's a little bit trial and error. So I'll not spend too much time trying to perfect that, but it probably is about 5 times. Okay, so we've started to get the kind of the beginnings of our animation. So I'm gonna now take you through some of the other things that you see on the screen. So hopefully you've got a couple of objects on your screen. As I say, on the left we've got this these blank slides. Or this opportunity to create new slides. Sorry. So I'm going to show you now. I'm going to extend that to the end. So that's on the end of the screen, and Our Lady is at the end of the screen as well, of this slide. If I go to duplicate, I'm going to get exactly what's on this slide appearing on this one. So as I press play and move on to the next slide.
To stay positive and prepare for your progression.
Sorry.
We're looking at new ways to share self-help ideas that could help you cope with lockdown and make.
We go on to the next slide and we just repeat the same.
If you tune into the way
we don't really want to do that. We want to continue what's going on the first slide. So I'm going to delete that. The way I continue what's going on is by clicking on extend. So that just puts everything that was at the end of my first slide on the beginning of this slide. It's the same background. And then I've got my two objects here, and I can make them as long as possible. So, okay, I think what I'm going to do is, with my animation, I've got my laptop here. I'm going to replace that with another laptop with another image in it. So rather than have it disappearing up, I'm going to have no effect. And then I'm going to copy this image. So I can either right click and go to copy. So that's in my clipboard. So if I go right to the end of where that image is, and then importantly, I have to click off it, double click a couple of times randomly just off, and I'm going to paste the same image in. So now what we have is 2 images, and it's going to move from one to the other, and it's got the same entry effect. So I'm going to take that off so it doesn't pop in, so it looks like a continuous image. And then I'm just going to change what I have in here, so the actual image within the laptop. So I'm going to have a COVID image. I'll have a blue sky image. So there we go. So in my laptop, which incidentally has been pasted more recently than our character, so it's now, in terms of the layer, is going to be closer to the camera. So it now puts our character behind it. So what we want to do is this important thing called layering. So the first laptop is furthest to the back. Then we've got this female character, and then this laptop. I want to send this laptop to the back. So I'm going to right click and send to the back. So you can see the very end of the first laptop, and you can also see the start of the second laptop. But if you press play, you'll see it transition from one to the other.
Skills to stay positive and prepare for your progression. We're looking at new ways.
So it looks like there's a second screen on your laptop. So you can do this with all objects when you want to try and change the the position, say, of a character. So in my character, we know that she's going to end here. When she arrives at the laptop, I'm going to put her into a thinking position. So rather than have her exit left, as we've got on the current exit effect, I'm going to select no effect. So that will just mean that she disappears.
Spread of COVID-19 has affected how prisons work.
So moving back to where she is. At this point here, she will end at 8.5 seconds. And I can copy, and then I can paste her back into exactly the same spot. And then she starts walking again, because we've set her for 5 animation rotations. So I'm going to go to settings, and then animation, and no animation. But now what I'm going to do, and so I'm going to swap this character for, so it brings up automatically, it brings up all the other type of picto characters. So that's these are the icons that we're using for this particular character. So you can see that you've got a male and a female, and then when you hover over these, you can get all these different, I think my 10-year-old son would say, emotes, so different expressions. So for this, we don't want to have her screaming. We want her to be a confident, happy presenter. We can have her typing, so you can paste in an object of a chair behind her. You can put a desk in front of her. You can have her running. I'm going to ask for her to be presenting. Okay. So what that does is I've swapped the second image for a new image, which is a presenter image. So playing it from the start, we can see her walk towards the camera, and then
Stopping the spread of COVID-19.
So she's not disappearing yet. So I've put my new character in a bit early, but I can just adjust that so the first character leaves with no effect, and we'll switch to this new character.
Stopping the spread of COVID-19 is...
And then I can play around with the size to try and give the impression to the viewer that it's just the same character. Now, she's still gliding in, so I'm going to just quickly adjust that. Go to play in loop. So by the time she gets to the end of her travel, she'll stop, and then she'll immediately turn into a presenting woman. If I turn the animation on, she'll start talking.
Stopping the spread of COVID-19 has affected how prisons work. So self-help packs can help you.
I've got a bit of a random sort of thing going on here with my laptop, so I would probably want to have a more appropriate image. I think one thing that's missing from the presentation is a title. So I'm going to address that now. So if you look at text and then click add title, we have to think about what's going to work with this background. So all your word processing skills are what's going to come into play here. So as you can imagine, you can select different fonts. This is an interesting feature here. Once you've used a font, and if you like it, you can put a star next to it, and that makes it easier for you to find that font next time. It will just be in your starred ones. So these are the ones that I seem to have liked in the past. I'll go for this particular one. So it's not very visible there. So I'm going to change the color, and I'm going to increase the size. I haven't written anything in it yet. It's a bit bold, so I'm going to take it off bold. There we go, that's more like it. So I'm going to write in here self-help. So there we go. And you can see on the timeline at the bottom, my title is going to fade in and it's going to be on the screen while all the rest of this is happening. So I don't really want it there all that time. So I'm going to have it exiting just as my character is approaching the screen. One of the things that can be really useful, and I'm not going to be able to show you now really, but is if you can synchronize the words appearing on the screen with what is going on with the audio. So that this kind of scale entry effect will mean that the writing will appear one word at a time. You can get that to coincide with the audio. So this is going to sort of like pop up one at a time, and then it's going to fade away. So I'm going to click on play the slide.
Stopping the spread of COVID-19 has affected how prisons work. Self-help packs can help you build skills to stay positive and prepare for your progression.
So I've changed this slide since I created this extended slide. So when it goes on to the next slide,
we're looking at new ways to share self-help ideas that could help you cope with lockdown and make positive plans for the future.
It's got the old stuff on. So I'm going to delete that old one and I'm going to extend the current slide. So all of the end of the first slide is presented at the start of the new slide. Okay, so hopefully that's given people enough of a run through of the key features. I'm just looking at my slide now to look at some of the other things I haven't shown you. Shapes, again, you can search through shapes. The frames here are really useful for combining images. There's lots of different types of frames. There's lots of different, obviously, shapes, and you can search within any of these categories. The sound, I might want to, I've put my voiceover in. I might want to add some music. So I'm going to click on there. No, I'm not. I'm going to search sound, put motivational. So this will bring up my motivational sounds. So I don't know what this one is, but I'm just going to use it. So what that will do is it'll bring up sound control. So one of these tracks is my voiceover track, that top one, the red one. The bottom one is my music one. Now the sound volume for music is always way too high. So you've got to bring it down to, say, a 6. And then if you press play together.
And make positive plans for the future.
So I've got an audio file now to back up my voiceover. This can be really helpful, the audio, the soundtrack, to cover up any poor audio recording that you might have. And generally it's kind of accepted, but that when you're presenting media, the backing track can add certain acoustic aesthetic to your presentation. So always worth bearing in mind. You can search through hundreds and hundreds of sounds there and find ones that sort of you're happy with. Okay, so what else have we got? So yeah, down at the bottom you've got specials, which are particular animated sort of sequences, some fun stuff in there. Well, what you've got at the top here is a really important thing for people who get serious about creating a lot of content on Powtoon. So the current scene that I've created here, I can actually record that and save it for a later date. So I can put it in a new Powtoon. So if I just click on save the current scene, it will literally appear here in my saved scenes. So if I click back into Powtoon to get to my workspace, it's probably worthwhile people just having a quick go at doing this, to just click on that Powtoon image, and then it will take you back to where you've got all of your Powtoons. So you'll see I've got my untitled one, self-help pack. Just change the title. Now, if I want to create a new Powtoon, I'm going to click on blank Powtoon. That's going to take me through the opening section. So just to load up this blank one. All of my saved scenes are going to give me a head start now. So again, I'm just going to go for infographic. I go into scenes, choose a scene, my scenes. There it is. So I can essentially import and export elements of old animations into new ones. And this can be really, really useful when you've spent a lot of time doing something intricate. So this is one that I did kind of like a little skit for social media to advertise this particular workshop. So you can see there's quite a lot in here. So I've just clicked on that saved scene and made it part of my new Powtoon. So if I press play on this, you'll see, or just slide across, you'll see that there's movement, there's writing popping in, and then there's this rainbow thing pop up, and then these characters, and then more movement. And it's all delivered in about 16 seconds. You can see there's probably about 30 or 40 different elements on this timeline, all coming in at different points and transitioning between different types of emote and types of animation. So I'll just press play on that so you can see how that runs. As that indicator moves across, you can see how each icon on the timeline is coming into effect. So for me to have recreated that on this slide in a brand new Powtoon would have taken me ages. So that's a really useful thing. And as you can see in the work that we've been doing, we've got all of these saved scenes. So ultimately, we've got a huge back catalogue of stuff which we can adapt and reuse and repurpose to make new content, which might be similar to old content that we've done. And it's one of the key things to emphasize is that if you commission bits of media from a corporate media production facility, your ability to tweak and adapt that content is dependent upon you having access to the experts involved in creating that content. Quite often that might result in you having to spend more money. This way, we can tweak and reuse content to create new content at pretty low costs. So with our same-sex domestic abuse toolkit that we've got, we essentially used a lot of our content that we developed for our heterosexual version of the IPV toolkit. We added in new characters, new voiceovers, and a lot of the work in terms of the actual skills that we were trying to communicate was there already in our saved scenes. But also you can duplicate an old Powtoon and just give it a new title and start adapting that one as well. So I'm going to go back to the Powtoon workspace, which has got all our Powtoons in. and then I'm going to have a look at the original that I created, self-help, and then look at the options in this main workspace. So we can obviously edit it, which takes us back to the screen that we created it from, or we could go to more, we can delete it, we can duplicate it, or we can collaborate. I haven't done that yet. I think you might need to have a paid account, but the next thing I want to show you is exporting. So if you're on the same screen as me, and then I don't know what stage your particular animation is going to be at the moment, but if you want to just follow these steps, you can always delete it from your account at a later date. But going to export takes us to this screen. All of these platforms are at our disposal. The main ones that we use are YouTube and Vimeo. Both have got different characteristics. YouTube is useful because there's an auto transcribe function on there, which makes producing subtitles very easy. And Vimeo is good because there's more security attached to it. So with third-party software, you can download a YouTube video from a link, whereas in Vimeo, you can protect it, so you can't actually download the file itself. So I'm at the moment looking at exporting my animation to YouTube. So I'm going to click on YouTube. So we go into this screen now, and then it's in the process of uploading to YouTube. And I can go back to the edit screen really easy by clicking on edit the Powtoon. So that takes me back. So if you click on edit your Powtoon, you're going to be able to get back to your original one that you're working on.
Jason.
Hello.
It's Laura. Just how do you add an voiceover halfway through a slide? Because every time I'm trying to add a voiceover, it goes over the whole slide.
Right. So what you have to do here is you need to get slick with how you use Audacity. So what I would be doing is I would be re-editing my audio. So I'll just quickly show you how I would do that. So if I share here, I can delete the first 5 seconds from my audio just by cutting and then re-exporting it to the same file. I'll just call it short. Save it. And then click into my Powtoon. Select my Powtoon, and then once I'm in my Powtoon, I add the voiceover again because in its new location it's a bit shorter, and then it will come in a bit earlier. So you really got to think about how you operate your audio editing in conjunction with your Powtoon editing.
Stopping the spread of COVID-19.
You see, it comes in much earlier there. So it's those kind of little workflows. Once you've been doing it for a while, it'll come a little bit more quickly to do those little edits. And you'll notice that you'll fluff particular lines, and then you'll want to go back to the Audacity file and edit out things that you've messed up and that. So that's how I would approach that. Otherwise, you can't add in an audio at a particular point. So yeah, if you're thinking about doing this for your organization, what I would say is that it's really useful to get a business case together to get a paid account. We have one, and I think it's something like £300. Obviously, we've been using it quite a lot, so it more than justifies the expense. But if you're thinking of even creating just 1 or 2 animations, it may well be worthwhile just getting a paid account, so you've got a better range of characters to select from, and also you've got better publishing options. does anyone feel comfortable sharing their screen and showing us what they've managed to create? I'm kind of excited to know what people have created. Rachel's appeared.
I don't mind sharing. It's just I've got Zoom on my phone, and
Oh, you can maybe hold it up. Can you hold it up?
Yeah. No laughing at my Geordie voice, mind. And that's it.
Brilliant. So you've got all the core rudiments there in terms of combining text with the characters, and yeah, you will find something which is a little bit less busy when it comes to backgrounds than that. But yeah, no, that's essentially the same as what I was able to produce on the afternoon that Jimmy showed me how to do the basics. So now it's just essentially adding a load of time to the mix. You need to have a huge amount of time to focus on developing the skills to make a decent bit of media. So it's really important to create stuff that you're passionate about, I think, because then you really want to see that end result. And all that time you're trying to get to that as good as it can be version. You're learning new skills, you're exploring all the different features, and yeah, you'll get better and better over time. But unfortunately, everyone at the moment's in that position of new skills don't come all that easily, and it's practice. And there's loads of workflows that I can do relatively quickly now, which obviously I was nowhere near getting done when I first started. But as a first attempt, Rachel, that was awesome. Anyone else want to have a go?
I don't mind sharing mine if you want. It's a bit weird. But...
In your presentation, you'll have access to some of these resources here. Published work. We've got a few blogs that are available now. And I think just my concluding remarks from a presentation are here. 3 main points. We believe that injecting simple technology like complementary digital media into existing services can assist meaningful face-to-face connections and promote learning consolidation between sessions. We think that tech should respect and complement, not replace, the core practices of practitioners and peer supporters. And we think that content needs to be real to users. So we want to co-create content that produces a real engagement with the audience, and getting feedback from service users is essential to iterating our content so it can be as good as it can be. Okay, so that's going to bring us to an end. As I say, please do get in touch, and it'd be great to see you again in the future.